2015, and Louis, born 2018. By this last date, the footmarks of proud royal parents displaying their newborn to the world had almost worn grooves into those stone steps at Paddington. There was an anthropological thesis to be written on the success of populist monarchies who chose to display their offspring outside railway stations at birth. Austria's archdukes snootily kept their child production away from the public eye, and who now cared about the archdukes in Austria or anywhere else in the world? In May 2019, however, Harry and Meghan had decided that they did not want to display their newborn baby on those steps outside the Lindo wing. They wanted to be royal in a new style, and maybe not royal at all. And to understand why this mattered so much, we have to go back in royal history to the legend of the warming pan. The warming pan was the electric blanket or rubber hot water bottle of its day, a couple of centuries back. Before his lordship retired for the night, his chambermaid would heat up his sheets by smoothing them energetically with the warming pan, a large, flat, circular brass container on the end of a long wooden handle, with a high curved lid that meant it could hold a generous quantity of red-hot coals from the fireplace, or a newborn baby. Such a warming pan, it was alleged, had been used in 1688 to smuggle a healthy substitute baby into the birthing bed of Mary of Modena, wife of the hated Catholic King James II, replacing the legitimate heir who was said to have been born sickly. Until 1688, the unpopular monarch had been tolerated because his successor was going to be his Protestant sister Mary and her still more Protestant Dutch husband William of Orange. Loyal anti-Catholic Brits had hoped that the generally popular and non-popish couple would succeed the childless and far too popish James as joint monarchs, William and Mary, thus preserving what passed for democracy in those days, as well as the Church of England. The unexpected appearance of the living and healthy warming pan baby, James Francis Edward Stuart, however, threatened this scheme, and 1688 turned into a landmark year in the history of Britain's monarchy. William of Orange sailed his invasion fleet into Torbay that November, bloodlessly persuading James II to flee London with his warming pan son. The Glorious Revolution was British history's memorable moniker for the stirring events of 1688 and its resulting settlement that became the model for our modern system of enhanced and democratic powers for Parliament and reduced powers for an increasingly symbolic constitutional monarchy. Alongside the theoretical changes came the very practical provision that all royal births must, in future, be personally attended by the Home Secretary of the day, whose job it would be to make sure that the new royal arrival had been delivered properly and not in a warming pan. So, well into modern times, attendance beside the royal birthing bed became the duty of every British Home Secretary. Queen Victoria gave birth to all 9 of her children with her Home Secretary in the room, along with assorted Privy Councillors, and this intrusive custom lasted long into the 20th century. Sir William Joynson Hicks was present at the birth of the future Queen Elizabeth II at her parents' London townhouse in April 1926, and 4 years later his Labour successor, John Robert Clines, had to travel up to Glamis Castle in Scotland to be at the birth of her sister Margaret. He found himself stranded there with a single operator-controlled telephone line for 2 whole weeks because the princess arrived late. In November 1948, Prince Charles became the first post-1688 heir to the British throne to be born without the ritualised scrutiny of his arrival on behalf of the people. Clement Attlee's post-war Labour government had wasted no time in sweeping away the outdated practice. But Charles revived its spirit in 1982 and 1984 with the births of William and Harry, when he and Diana proudly and dutifully brought their sons out onto the steps of the Lindo wing for public inspection and approval within hours of their births. Prince William continued the tradition unquestioningly, though by 2013 the performance had turned into a menacing and undignified scrum among the ever-growing mass of paparazzi in a most alarming free-for-all. But William still did his duty sturdily, beside him Kate immaculate and smiling despite the traumas of delivery. As an heir to the throne who had done his homework, Prince William knew about warming pans and the importance of making the people feel that you were at one with them. But as the spare, his younger brother had received no such special instruction in the ancient legend.